I got sick. I had a tremendous amount of flu shot, the 6 times, because I'm an old guy.
Mayor, your mic's on.
Good. Let's turn them all on. Good evening. The City of Riverbank Special City Council meeting is now in session. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. The time is 6 p.m. Please stand. I pledge pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is the Reverend going to say anything?
Could we pray? Heavenly Father, in the scripture you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular, for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflict and interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Riverbank. Please, Heavenly Father Jesus, give us civility as this meeting comes to order. And we give you all this in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember District 1, Luis Uribe. Here. Councilmember District 2, Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember District 3, Cal Campbell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Darlene Barber Martinez.
Here.
Mayor Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. I'm going to add on to the Reverend Neal's choosing civilities as we go through tonight. I'm going to lay out some guidelines which will make the process very clear and simple. First off, because there's so many items being taken into consideration, each item will be addressed separately, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes per item for public comment. Any council or member or staff who has direct conflict of interest in any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Seeing no conflicts, public business from the floor. Pursuant to government code, in reference to a special meeting, the public has the opportunity to address the city council only on items appearing on the special meeting notice. Individual comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. There will be no action taken on any comments in the public business. Is there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent calendar, consisting of 2A, waive readings. Is there anyone wishing to pull? Anyone wishing to discuss item 2A or make a recommendation?
I make a recommendation that we approve item 2A.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second on item 2A, waive readings.
Councilmembers Campbell.
Yes.
Fossey.
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barber Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3, public hearing. Item 3.1, Crossroads West Specific Plan, consideration of 1, Resolution number 2019-013, certifying an environmental impact state clearinghouse number 201703260, adopting the California Environmental Quality Act, findings of facts, and statement of overriding considerations and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Crossroads West Specific Plan, General Plan amendments, and annexation. And 2, Resolution number 2019-014, approving General Plan amendment for the Crossroads West Specific Plan. And 3, Resolution number 2019-015, approving the Crossroads West Specific Plan. And 4, first reading by title only and introduction of ordinance number 2019-003 to approve pre-zoning of the Crossroads West Specific Plan, APNs 074-006-002, 074-006-021, 074-006-016, 074-006-014, 074-006-013, 074-011-009, 074-014-006, 074-014-007, and 074-001-004. And 5, resolution number 2019-016, adopting the resolution of application to request that Stanislaus Lafco initiate proceedings authorizing annexation of the Crossroads West specific plan into the city of Riverbank. At this time, before we start, we will have the first presentation on all of these 5 items, and then we'll go back and open a public hearing for each specific item going down. All right? Mr. Scully.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and good evening, council, good evening, community, and project applicants. Thank you so much for coming this evening on a special meeting night and making yourselves available. I'm very pleased to introduce someone who's been involved in the project for a really long time, John Anderson with JB Anderson Planning, to step you through the environmental and associated items that the mayor just read off.
Thank you, Sean. Members of the council, John Anderson, J.B. Anderson Land Use Planning, 139 South Stockton Avenue, Ripon, California. As Sean has described, this is a process we've been engaged in for quite some time. In the staff report, kind of outlines where we've been and where we are today. This is a very large project. It's a very complex project. Placed before you on the table are a number of documents, which are the resultant documents that we've all had a chance to review and should be considering before the council takes action. There are items certainly the Planning Commission considered before they took action. It includes the draft environmental impact report, the final impact report, and obviously the plan itself, the specific plan itself. Tonight, I have with me the consultant team that was involved in the preparation of these documents, including Elise Carroll with De Novo Planning. Elise, if you can stand up or put your hand up, that's great, thank you. Ken Anderson with Katie Anderson, traffic consultants out of Loomis. Ken does a lot of work with the city of Riverbank. He's an integral part of what we do here and is perfectly capable of helping us with this project. And then Bill Call, city engineer. Bill has offices out of Oakdale, and Bill deals with all the day-to-day issues associated with engineering-related services in the city of Riverbank. So Bill and his team provided an excellent review and consideration of all the documents that are presented to us tonight as well. There are several staff members in the back that were also a part of this. Kathleen Cleek, as well as Michael Rydell. Maricela participated in it, and also Chief Kiley also was a big part of this as well. So I want to thank all these people for their participation in this effort. I have a PowerPoint that I want to go through, but I think before I go through the PowerPoint, I want to make sure that the council has in front of them a number of documents that have been presented to us since the Planning Commission hearing, which was held on February 13th of this year. We received initially a piece of correspondence from the Stanislaus Consolidated Fire District and their representatives. And that piece of correspondence was dated February 15th. We have another piece of correspondence that's dated March 19th that our deputy city attorney will talk about. That's Robin Barral, and his letter addressing the district's concerns. And Robin's letter is dated March 19th, and then yet another piece of correspondence back from Consolidated Fire District's representative dated March 19th. So I'll just introduce those and let Robin talk about those a little bit later on in the presentation. And then as of 5 o'clock today, we received a letter from the California Rural Legal Assistance League. This was again dated March 19th, 2019, and then signed by Marisol Aguilar. This is the same individual we dealt with as part of the housing element update back in 2015, which is ultimately adopted back in 2016. So I wanted to make sure that those are introduced into the record and they're part of the administrative process that we're going through today. So I've got a lot to go through. I don't mind if you guys interrupt me at any point. Kind of lived with this project a while. If there are specific questions that you have, additional detail you need, we've got the experts in the audience that are able to answer those questions. So we're not in a hurry tonight. This project has been a fairly comprehensive project, fairly exhaustive, and we've spent a lot of time and energy, going over all the project-related details. So after having said that little introduction, here we go. You'll recall that back in 2016, in order for us to even consider such an effort, we had to do two things. We had to go through what they call a municipal service review or update that had to be ultimately adopted by Stanislaus Lafko. That occurred in 2016. Part of that effort, we expanded our sphere of influence for the city of Riverbank. We expanded it in a couple different areas. The one area that we're talking about tonight, which involves the Crossroads West area, was something that was part of that sphere of influence expansion request that was ultimately approved by LAFCO, and this represents their document in their file and allows us to continue to work on a project such as we're talking about tonight. So the project area, what is it, or where is it defined as? So we've got the MID main lateral to the north. We've got Oakdale Road here on the eastern edge. We have Clarabelle Road on the south. And then we are halfway between Coffee Road and Oakdale. And that constitutes the project area, which is about 380 acres. That 380 acres is made up principally of three primary property owners. The Machado family, which I believe is represented by Randy Hyde Jr. in the audience. We have the Bosio McCrane property, which is the property here south of MID Lateral 6, which is represented by contract by the Broman Development Group. So you've got Daryl Broman and Vic DeMello as part of their organization here. Mario's their in-house legal counsel is here. They're the same developers that are currently developing, owning, and managing the existing Crossroads commercial development. So the intent is that they would do something similar on the west side of Oakdale Road. That's certainly their idea. And then we also have representatives in the audience from representing the Herringfield property, and that's the property principally that's north of Morrell Road, somewhat adjacent to the regional sports complex north of Morrell, and that's representative by the Herringfield family, both Karna and her brother. So there are a couple other property owners that are involved in the plan area, and they've been engaged in the process. But principally, it's been those three individuals who have been funding this effort, and this has been a developer-funded effort and not an effort that's been funded out of the city's general fund. That's for sure. So back in 2008, an effort started back in 2004. Ultimately, the City Council adopted a general plan for the area in question. The colors on this map represent generally the types of land uses that were anticipated. It's very similar to what we're talking about tonight, where you've got commercial in the southern half of the property, and then you have a true mix of uses north of lateral 6, including medium density housing, low density housing, high density housing, as well as sites and opportunities for schools, as well as expansion of the regional sports complex and additional neighborhood parks that would be necessary. So as part of this effort to expand the sphere of influence and to get adopted an updated municipal service review from LAFCO, we looked at some of the annexation strategies that were part of the adopted general plan, and we kind of cleaned them up a bit. What I mean by that is that we focused in on what we believed were important components as part of a future annexation. One of the issues is we wanted to make sure that we had specific plans required prior to annexation The other is that those specific plans would generally contain an area of 200 acres or so. Larger areas than 200 acres, let's say 1,000 acres or 1,200 acres, just seem to be extremely difficult to manage, certainly for city staff. So that was one of the considerations that we had, as well as making sure that we focused, the city's attention on the new annexation areas and making sure that we had adequate infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, et cetera, to provide those services to the new growth areas. So these are developed and adopted strategies, and definitely a part of the processing effort that staff will take as we move forward. So as I described project history, it started with the approval of an advanced funding agreement. This occurred back in November of 2014. There was a first draft of the plan, which was presented to us in February of 2015, which allowed us to move forward with the preparation of a draft CEQA document and filing of what they call a notice of preparation, which ultimately occurred March of 2017, almost 2 years ago now. We conducted a workshop of the draft plan February of 2018, and then ultimately we ended up releasing a draft environmental document for the mandatory 45-day review period on June of 2018. Based on the request by the council and the planning commission, we conducted a joint planning commission city council workshop on this project in September of 2018 to bring everyone up to speed as to where we were on this project and the work effort that has been put forth. And then in January of 2019, in response to the comments we received on the draft EIR, we published a final EIR for this particular project. Most recently, the Planning Commission took action through a public hearing process to approve or make recommendations to the City Council to approve this effort as part of their discussions on February 13th, 2019. So what is the plan? The basic plan components are presented in this diagram here, where you have an MU1 area, which can consist of a mixture, if you will, of commercial and residential uses down in the Bossio-McCrane area or the Tulip Farm area, south of Lateral 6. You have opportunities for neighborhood parks and linear park storm drain basin components that are part of the project. We have preserved the opportunity for apartment development, both in the southern portion of the project as well as the northern portion of the project. Again, opportunities for mixed use at the intersection of Morrell and Oakdale Road. Opportunity for expansion, in essence doubling of the regional sports complex north of Morrell. And then again, some more residential development north of Morrell. This is coupled with the opportunity to locate a new fire station site on what the plan called for of 1 to 3 acres. We now hear that the fire district has suggested that that site needs to be a minimum of 1.25 acres, and we can certainly make that adjustment in the documents we presented. Also, we're looking at opportunities for both an elementary and a middle school site within the development as prescribed by the Sylvan Union School District. I think they're still trying to decide which type of facility they think is most appropriate at this time. It sounds as if the middle school might have a higher priority than an elementary school. Again, that's some decision that they'll be making in the future, and obviously negotiating with the landowner on the property as they progress. An important component of this plan is implementation of the existing circulation element we have, and that is that Crawford Road will serve not as a through road, and it actually becomes disconnected. So we'll end up with a new Crawford Road alignment as we develop westerly of this particular development area towards Coffee Road. As part of one of the exhibits that was presented to the Planning Commission, there were suggestions for a connection between Old and New Crawford Road. It was not our intent to have a new road segment go through any improvements nor affect anybody's property outside the limits of this property. So we removed that suggestion. It's been removed from all of our exhibits. So this clearly indicates what our intent is. There's another exhibit in my PowerPoint that talks about what do we do with this point of connection between, this new north-south road collector and existing Crawford Road, and I'll go through that in just 1 minute. So the mandatory elements of a specific plan include a lot of the same types of things you would see in a general plan. It includes a land use discussion, includes circulation and alternatives for transportation, public services and facilities, potential infrastructure alignments for water, sewer, and storm, design guidelines for intended commercial, industrial, and multifamily uses within the plan area, a project financing plan or draft financing plan, which is what's been presented, and then some discussion about how you implement, allow for changes, and administer the plan long term. The land use summary on the project is described as such. It's designed that the average units or square footage is what was analyzed in the traffic analysis, so those units can't be exceeded. The densities can transfer amongst the various planning units as presented, but the idea is that this is what we end up with in the end of the day. There's opportunities on the MU1 property to kind of do a mix between commercial and multifamily as described. For example, they could do up to 360 square foot of commercial and 350 residential units. Conversely, they could do all commercial at up to 500,000 square feet. So there's been quite a bit of flexibility built in the plan to allow for market changes and considerations as we move forward. Circulation of non-motorized, this is pretty important. Obviously, you need circulation through the project. We have the new north-south collector, which will be built between Morrell, connect at Crawford, and ultimately connect at a new intersection here at Clarabelle Road. This intersection will be a signalized intersection. It's been proposed that we would suggest roundabouts similar to what we have on Crawford Road, east of Oakdale Road, at Crawford and the new north-south collector, and then Morrell at the north-south collector. Roadway circulation and cross sections, these are basically identical to what you see out there now. It's just completion of Oakdale Road north and south from Morrell all the way now to Clarabelle Road. What's important to note is that we already have a 12-foot sidewalk on the east side, and what we're promoting is another 12-foot separated sidewalk on the west side, so that we have the opportunity for pedestrian travel as well as bicycle travel on both east and west side of Oakdale Road. This is kind of a little bit of a blow up of those two segments, potential roundabouts at Morrell, the north-south collector, and then Crawford, and then the EVA access or the connection to the old Crawford Road alignment. Let me go forward here. So this is what we're talking about. It's another little exhibit that kind of shows, this would be the north-south collector. This would be existing Crawford Road westerly of the project. We would construct kind of an emergency gate with electronic eye so the fire would be able to get through here. You'd have a cul-de-sac at each end, and basically what this does, this serves to defer and deflect construction and residential traffic away from Crawford Road, which was the intent of the circulation element as adopted as part of the 2008 general plan. So getting back to what we might see, at Crawford and Morrell, a couple different conditions depending on how these segments get developed. The top exhibit shows Crawford Road from Oakdale Road to the west edge of the project, which is similar to what we see Crawford Road on the east side of Oakdale Road. And then this is Morrell Road, Oakdale to the west edge of the project. And the idea is that this cross-section could have walls or not, depending on how those adjacent developments occur. And we've got some high-density and medium-density developments adjacent to it, so I suspect they'll come up with something a little bit different. In the Crawford Road section, we continue to have the Class 2 bike path, and we're suggesting that same thing along Morrell as well, but a little bit more separation, and then parking. So full 12-foot travel lane, bike path, a little bit of a safety area, so to speak, and then parking, and then plantway strip, and then a 5-foot sidewalk, and then more planting. So these should work very well. Pretty much talked about that. So part of this concept along the north-south collector is that along the western edge, we'll end up with a park storm drain basin. Park storm drain basin, again, this is the north-south collector, where you would have, landscaping, planter strip, sidewalk, parking, travel lanes, and then on the park side, you'd end up with a 12-foot separated bike sidewalk area, planting strip, and then a gentle slope leading down into a dual storm park basin, and then similar treatment up to some type of a metal split rail fence or something along that western edge, which would separate urban development from the ranchette development to the west. So this is the area which would be north of the basin. It's going to have a little bit different treatment because you would, in essence, have backup lots in that condition because of the 12-foot bike path. So wanted to be able to, show you another exhibit at what that might look like. Basically, the other components of the cross-section are pretty identical. So non-motorized, it's important that the plan is able to have connectivity amongst itself as well as to the existing city facilities. So we're suggesting, a Class 1 bike path along the MID main canal, connection point to Oakdale Road. Obviously, we have Class 1 on the east side. We would be promoting Class 1 on the Class 1 on the west side. We're also suggesting similar treatment along the MID lateral 6, which ultimately connects to similar treatment that is easterly of Oakdale Road, which is a big part of the Crossroads commercial development and residential environment. And then a bridge over the MID lateral as a connection point between the residential neighborhoods and the commercial that's potential in the MU1 area as presented. It's doubtful whether or not we'll be able to get this secondary or second bridge over the MID lateral. There's actually an existing farm or tractor bridge over there now, but in preliminary discussions with MID, I think we're going to end up with one in the end of the day. So these are obviously concepts. The Class 1 bike path system would connect again along the western side of the project, so it would connect up these neighborhoods to school sites, wherever they may be, as well as the regional sports complex, which will be adjacent, expanded regional sports complex, which will be adjacent to the MID main lateral. So we've got a lot of connectivity within the project, and pretty proud of that, actually. So water plan, with a water plan, there's a couple things that are significant. When the city adopted their general plan, they adopted infrastructure master plans, water, sewer, storm drain master plans. In the water master plan, they made it very clear that in this project area, we would need to locate a new municipal water source. That source has been identified within this project along the MID main canal at the north end of the project, as well as the establishment of a peaking reservoir, and we've suggested that that be located in the southern part of the project adjacent to MID lateral 6. And then, of course, that infrastructure is linked in with the existing city infrastructure through the 12-inch water line network system as illustrated. And this is just a blow-up of what we're suggesting is potential well site and conversely a potential peaking reservoir location. Storm drain. Storm drain, we've gone through quite a bit of change since the city adopted their storm drain master plan. The big concept these days, especially in light of what the state of California is requiring us to do, is to comply with what they call low impact development design standards. So these are LID concepts that will be presented as part of every single project that's presented within this development, including the commercial, where you end up with pre-treatment of stormwater before it goes into a public infrastructure system. And then in this case, ultimately the stormwater is suggested to be discharged into adjacent MID facilities. For the MU1 property, they have capacity that's been identified within the existing storm drain system that they built easterly of Oakdale Road and intend to increase the discharge amount into the MID lateral. We're suggesting another discharge point into the MID lateral along MID main lateral along the north end of the project, and potentially another discharge point into MID lateral 6 at the south end of the project north of lateral 6. So the idea is to use the linear park storm drain basin for filtration as well as landscaping internal to the commercial areas for filtration before this storm water is ultimately discharged into a city controlled facility and then discharged into an MID facility. So this is simply a concept plan of what could happen within this park storm drain area that's adjacent to the north-south collector. So we'll be working obviously with Sue Fitzpatrick and Parks and Recreation on more detailed plans as to exactly what this will look like. There's obviously some more engineering related work that's got to be done to prove out exactly what's going to work. Sue's obvious biggest concern is that if we have stormwater inundation, that stormwater inundation doesn't affect the activity centers that the parks would be designed around. So she'll be a big part of what is ultimately developed as part of this effort. So these are concept drawings only. Same with the potential expansion of the regional sports complex. You have, a well site up in here, dual use, basin play area. It's been suggested for a couple different reasons that we have expansion of parking opportunities for this complex. There is a requirement in the environmental document for a noise separation between the center of an identified play field and the proposed adjacent residential homes. This illustration would mitigate that noise issue and obviously also provide the needed parking for a regional facility of this size. So again, this is a concept drawing to be finalized as part of an effort that Sue Fitzpatrick and her team will go through. Just like with the Crossroads project, we're very careful to plan street trees that are consistent with the type of orientation the trees might get, as well as to be consistent with other design themes that the city has already embraced. For example, having Chinese pistachios along Crawford Road, which is pretty much what we have on Crawford Road east of Oakdale Road, with some exceptions. There's some ash trees in there that are being removed and Chinese pistachios are being added. Along Oakdale Road, there's a number of cork oaks. Those cork oaks will be continued. The overhead utility lines that you see will actually be relocated and placed underground, so we don't have a long-term conflict between those overhead utilities and the cork oaks that are growing very well along that road segment. Part of the specific plan will has presented ideas for architectural design concepts. We've built in the opportunity to expand those architectural concepts as time goes on. This project, in all likelihood, is a 15 to 20-year plan. I can't imagine it's going to happen in a year or two. Certainly, Crossroads was developed over 20 years, so we believe there's going to be changes in architectural styles, and we need to accommodate that. However, provide some basic guidelines, which the document provides for us. Same thing with commercial architectural concepts. Project financing plan. Basic project is developed, is presented as 3 different phases, 3 basic phases, all of which can work independently, phases A, B, and C. Financing strategies are developed accordingly. In some cases, there's going to be area-specific impact fees. There will be special assessment districts, such as a maintenance CFD, for things like lighting, landscaping, streets, storm drainage, and extended police protection. And of course, there's going to be private funding and other equity funding that will ultimately allow this project to be built. The phasing that's referenced is illustrated as such. Phase A would consist primarily of the Bosio-McCrane property, controlled by the Broman Development Group. Phase B would consist of the Machado property, controlled by the Machado family primarily. And then Phase C would be the properties north of Morel Road. Area-specific impact fees might include things like, a permanent sewer lift station north of the MID lateral, and that could be a decision primarily between the developers of Phase A and Phase B as to whether or not it's necessary and whether or not Phase A wants to abandon their private sewer pump station in favor of a regional pump station. So that's a decision that needs to be made in the future. As it relates to benefits that embrace both phases B and C, you've got things like the MID lateral crossing over lateral 6. You have things like Crawford Road EVA closure, or regional storm drain improvements that both property or areas benefit in, and of course oversizing or any pedestrian related crossings over MID laterals. So that's these are items we'll be working with in the future. So as I mentioned earlier, we are talking about that all residential development will participate in a maintenance CFD for roads, stormwater, streets, street lighting, parks, landscaping, as well as extended police protection. And we truly believe there'll be a number of benefit zones that are directly related to the actual services provided. So the draft EIR, CEQA document, rather large document there. Most of the sections are prescribed by law. A lot of detailed analysis provided in aesthetics, ag resources, air quality, biocultural, geo, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, comments were received from responsible agencies and other individuals, and those have been addressed in the final EIR. Ag resources, this is going to be a big issue as part of our discussion with Stanislaus Lafko. There is an obligation for a mitigation at 1-to-1 ratio, which means 1 acre of prime ag removed, prime agricultural soils removed from production for residential purposes would have to be replaced on a 1-to-1 ratio. The city of Riverbank in 2016 did adopt sustainable agricultural strategies. LAFCO is aware of these, and it's our intent to implement these strategies as part of this project. Regional transportation circulation. The developers are responsible for completing a number of road-related improvements, including completing the intersection of Clarabelle and Oakdale Road, the intersection of Clarabelle, the north-south collector, of which I've discussed it as a signalized intersection, Oakdale Road between Morel and Crawford, which is only half built now, and a second northbound turn lane at Clarabelle and Oakdale Road intersection, And then, of course, frontage improvements along the north side of Clarabelle Road. And then they're also responsible for paying, impact fees, which allow for the construction of things like the North County Corridor, future traffic signal at Coffee and Morel, future traffic signal at Coffee and relocated Crawford, improvements to Coffee between Morel and Clarabelle, widening of SR 108 to 4 lanes from McHenry to Coffee, and then traffic signals at the intersection, future traffic signals at the intersection of Coffee and Patterson Road, which is SR 108. So Stanislaus Consolidated Fire has been an integral part of this process. I do not believe they've identified exactly where they would like to have their fire station. We believe they'd like to have it close to Oakdale Road along the Crawford Road alignment. Why is that? It's because we've got water and sewer and city facilities immediately available in that area. It'd be fairly simple for them to start construction and to occupy a new fire station in that general location. We've always stated in our planning documents that we would be looking at a site of 1 to 3 acres. We've heard recently that the district has suggested a minimum is necessary of 1.25 acres. So again, we can adjust these documents to reflect that suggestion. As it relates to Sylvan Union School District, we have, for illustrative purposes, indicated a couple locations of a couple sites, one for a middle school, one for an elementary school. The school district has communicated to us their desire as to where those sites might be located. We have told the school district that we're very concerned that they not locate the middle school and the elementary school right next to one another because of peak traffic concerns that we would have. So we're hopeful we'll continue to be able to work with Sylvan Union School District to locate and ultimately facilitate the construction of the new school facilities within this plan area that'll be needed to serve the students of this area as well as the existing Crossroads development area. So again, the Planning Commission held a duly noticed public hearing on February 13th and recommended that your City Council approve the Crossroads West Specific Plan, General Plan Amendment, Pre-Zone, and Annexation on a vote of 5-0. There are a number of documents associated with this project that have been available at City Hall North and South, as well as the Riverbank Library, as well as online, available for viewing by anybody basically around the world. And they include such things as notice of prep, the specific plan that's dated February of 2019, the draft environmental impact report, and all the appendices, the comments that we received on the draft EIR, as well as the final EIR itself. So after having said all that, there are recommended actions. The first is to adopt Resolution 2019-13 relative to the certification of the final EIR, including the approval of the CEQA findings of fact, statement of overriding considerations, and the mitigation and monitoring reporting program. To adopt a Resolution 2019-014, which is the approval of the Crossroads West General Plan Amendment, of which there are a number of general plan changes, land use changes, circulation changes. Adopt Resolution 2019-015, which is the approval of the plan itself, the Crossroads West Specific Plan. Adopt ordinance, or I should say introduce ordinance 2019-003, which would pre-zone the Crossroads West Specific Plan area to SB3, or Specific Plan 3. Specific Plan 1 is the Riverbank Industrial Complex. SB2 is the downtown Specific Plan area, and this would be the third specific plan that the city has entertained since the 2008 general plan has been adopted. Adopt Resolution 2019-016, which would authorize city staff to proceed with the filing of an annexation application to request Stanislaus LAFCO to initiate proceedings to annex the plan area into the city of Riverbank. So the next steps after all of this is that we would expect to submit an annexation application to Stanislaus LAFCO sometime at the end of this month, and that we would expect the Stanislaus LAFCO to take some kind of action on this project during the summer of 2019. So there's a lot of questions. I think there's a list of required actions at the very end that the city clerk wanted to make sure that I left up there on the screen. So are there any questions, Robin? I don't know if you want to talk more about consolidated fire.
Thank you, John, and good evening, Council. Some hard copies of recent correspondence were provided for your review and consideration, which I can briefly summarize. There's been somewhat of a back and forth regarding the level of analysis regarding fire facilities and services in the draft DIR. I think there's concerns raised regarding how appropriate. The district has focused on, the Stanislaus Consolidated Fire District has focused on some general plan policies and is suggesting that there's more analysis is required to really look at these issues in more detail. And I think it's important to summarize the general concerns under those policies relate to fire flows, the general provision of services and staffing ratios and facilities, specialized services relating to hazardous materials, and facilities funding and funding for services. Our first response was that these are not ordinarily considered environmental impacts. There's a lot of CEQA case law regarding this subject, and the case law seems to be pretty clear. The second issue, as it relates to, these are general plan policies. So their next argument was that, well, you still need to analyze, your consistency with the general plan. And so our recent correspondence, sort of a request to really get more information from the district, because a lot of their concerns, generally suggest that there's an inconsistency, and under CEQA, they actually have to provide a little bit more information as far as, well, what is it specifically about, the service issues? Are you, and we really need more information to have a productive conversation. So in my recent correspondence back to the district, I've requested for a meeting to follow up from this sort of exchange of paper, and to really dive into the details of what are the specific concerns, how can we get them addressed and resolved prior to the annexation hearing, and to really work productively to make sure that the best fire services can be provided in connection with this project. The last concern is with regard to financing for these facilities, and they suggested something similar to the CFD 2016, which is a special tax on properties. I think it's important to note that the district has an existing assessment, a special assessment, which covers operations and staffing, and there are fire impact fees would be charged on all new development within the Crossroads West project area and throughout the city, throughout the jurisdiction of the district. And so they are going through the process of updating their fire fees, and that's sort of within their control, and the city will be a partner in that process, and we hope to be a partner in that process. And so that's something we would also want to discuss in a meeting with the district. So they responded a few hours ago to my most recent correspondence and said they're very interested in having a meeting and working out these issues. And one of the things I also did suggest goes back to this issue of the size of the fire station. And so if the council does consider to move forward with this specific plan, I'd request that we include some additional detail, making it clear that the minimum size of a fire station would be 1.25 acres. And they are appreciative of that recommendation.
So I want to make a couple other clarifications, and then if the council has questions of us or the experts in the audience, please take that opportunity to ask us questions you might have. We did, as I said earlier, we received a letter from California Rural Legal Assistance. It is dated today, received it at 5 o'clock today. This is the same organization that we worked diligently with as part of the housing element update back in 2015. There was a series of 4 correspondences back and forth between us, between the city of Riverbank and the California Rural League Assistance. Our state representative was involved in all those correspondences. And in the end of the day, we received certification from the state on March 15, 2016. What I'm trying to say here is that in our adopted housing element that's now certified by the state, we have programs and policies that we intend to enforce on all development within the city of Riverbank. The letter that we received today seems to suggest that we're intending to revise those policies or programs, and that is not our intent in any way, shape, or form. This plan does continue to implement the general plan that we have now. The land use mix between that which was initially adopted in 2008 and what's being presented today is almost identical in total land use mix. We were very careful with that. We didn't want to lose housing units or opportunities in the housing mix between medium, high density and low density housing. So all those opportunities are there. The cities and counties, for that matter, we don't build affordable housing. We provide opportunities for affordable housing to be built. And those affordable housing projects can be built on a variety of different types of density development. We provided that same opportunity within this plan. So I think we've done an excellent job in carrying forward what the goals and policies were of the 2008 general plan, the housing element that we ultimately adopted in those programs back in 2015, and what you're being presented with today. So I do not agree with some of the comments that they're making in this letter, and I believe that we're totally consistent with our general plan. It's not our obligation to provide the affordable housing. It's just our obligation to provide programs and policies that allow for affordable housing to be built. One other comment that I want to make is in looking at Figure 12, there's an exhibit that talks about a bicycle trail adjacent to the MID lateral and MID lateral 6. The exhibit actually shows, a 5-foot landscape area, 10-foot walking path, and then a 5-foot landscape area. But the illustration only shows 18 feet. It's 20 feet. That's what's agreed upon. So we're going to have to make a minor adjustment to the final document to reflect that because it's 20 feet. We want to make sure that we have enough room on each side of the bike path for ample landscaping, which we really don't have on the existing Crossroads development. So we want to make sure that that point of clarification has been made as well. There are the applicants' representatives in the audience. We've got Dave Romano representing the applicants, as well as Sean Tobin with Mid-Valley Engineering, and his firm is actually the drafter, if you will, of the plan that's being presented to you tonight. So after having said that, I'm done with my presentation unless anybody else got anything else to say.
We will consider each of the items one by one. First off, for resolution number 2019-013, which is item 3.1.1. Is there any council member needing clarification from the presenter? At this time, I will open up the public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to come up and speak on that item 1.1, which is the resolution 2019-013, which is certifying the environmental impact report, State Clearinghouse number 2017032062. Seeing none, I close public hearing. I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2019-013.
I second.
A motion to approve resolution number 2019-013. We have a second.
Councilmembers Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
3.1.2, resolution number 2019-014, approving the general plan amendments. Is there anyone from the council wishing to ask clarifying questions to the presenter or requesting any other comments? Seeing none, I go to the public now. I open public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to discuss or ask questions on resolution number 2019-04, approving the general plan amendments? Seeing no public comment, I close public hearing and bring it back to the council for consideration.
I move that we accept Resolution 2019-014 as stated.
A motion to approve and a second on resolution number 2019-014.
Councilmembers Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.1.3, resolution number 2019-015, approving the Crossroads West specific plan. Is there anyone from the council having any comments or question of the presenter? Seeing none, I go to the public. Open the public hearing on item 3.1.3, resolution number 219-015.
Charles Neal, 2312 Rio Verde Drive, Riverbank, California. On this specific plan that you have here, I remember the Crossroads specific plan when it first was voted on and approved by this council, not you, not the council, but the city of Riverbank council members. And I've got a copy of that. I'd like to give it to you and show you what it was, the concept of what was approved in a specific plan, and you can go out there and look and see what's out there now. It completely changed. So therefore, there was supposed to be, in that specific plan, enough acreage for a fire department and for a city council, city annexation. None of that happened. I don't know, if you ask the city, they said, we don't know what happened to the funds. If you ask the fire department, we don't know what happened to the funds. Nobody knows what happens to the funds or the property that was to be set aside for that. In here, you're saying that you are putting a minimum of 1.25 acres for a fire department. Do you plan on putting a city council, city hall annexation in that area? I assume not. I assume that just the fire department is all you plan on putting in there. And thank you. I'll just see if it continues like it's supposed to.
Mayor and Council, it's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Dave Romano. I'm here this evening on behalf of the project development team. I just wanted to thank the council and thank your staff and thank my team, Mid-Valley Engineering, and all the landowners. 22 years ago, I was here on the Crossroads West project, or the existing Crossroads project. It's been a wonderful success for the city. It's been a wonderful success for the development community, and communities outside of the city of Riverbank look at that project as a success. So we wanted to build upon that success. We've worked together for the last 4 or 5 years. Broman Development Corp., the Machado family, and the Herigfeld family have allowed me to assist them in this process. I just wanted to thank your staff for all their hard work in getting this here and just recognize them. It's been a real pleasure. We appreciate being at the end of the road. We look forward to moving forward towards annexation. So thank you very much.
Mayor and City Council members, my name is Linda Silva. I reside at 1301 Crawford Road, Modesto. I have 3 comments on the specific plan. Number 1, the timing on the gate on Crawford Road. I live on Coffee and Crawford. I would hope that the, what do you want to call it, the traffic diverter in the middle of Oakdale will not be removed until that gate is in. And for residents on Crawford, the sooner that gate's put in, the better. We already are impacted quite a bit by traffic. Believe it or not, people still go around the diverter. And a lot of people have decided if they turn on Crawford and get over to Coffee, they alleviate some of the backup at Clarabelle Road. So there are times that I can't even get out of my driveway. And I would really appreciate seeing that gate come in. I think that's a great part of this plan. My other two comments, I also am part owner of a ranch that borders this property, the Klein Ranch. My first question is to make sure that the developers and the city is cognizant of the right to farm ordinance, and all residential development there will be advised of that. We have an ongoing peach ranch, and we spray at all hours of the night. We create dust, we create noise, and it's not an 8 to 5 job, obviously 5 days a week. We just planted 7,400 peach trees, and we would like to continue to farm them without any problems. I'm also assuming there will be some kind of a brick wall or something that will be on the west border of the development. So those of us that are farming next to it will not be plagued by people in our orchards with off-road vehicles, motor scooters, dumping garbage. Can't begin to tell you the things we've hauled off our ranch, including 2 live goats that were brought and tied up to our trees at one time. And the third comment I'd like to make is Morel Road. Obviously, the developer is only required to develop to the west edge of their development. I understand that. But then when you continue, the next half of Morel Road is all farming operations. We need the ability to be able to get out on Morel Road. You have farmers there that actually cross the road with equipment, so we need some kind of signage. And we also need Morel Road, if the developers or the city can work with the county to continue to improve that road, because if you haven't driven down it lately, it's pothole city. And with moving equipment across there and trucks coming out of our ranch loaded, and trucks coming out of the other ranches too, we need a good road there, and we really need that traffic light at Morel and Coffee. There is no traffic slowdown between Patterson Road and Clarabelle, and I can assure you that's a racetrack. It's not uncommon to hear traffic go by that's going probably well in excess of 100 miles an hour, and especially the motorcycles. They love it at night. You can hear them turn on from Patterson Road onto Coffee. By the time they get to Crawford, I'm sure they're going 80 miles an hour. At least that's what it sounds like when I'm sitting out on my patio. But anyway, those are just comments that I have on the specific plan. I hope you'll take them into consideration and make this a good project for all of us. Thank you.
Any further comment? I close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Mr. Neal, your comment on the firehouse for Crossroads was terminated by Chief Mayotte, stating that there was no need for a fire station. The funds collected are at Consolidated Fire. I have no idea if they have a special fund for that or not, but there was no funds returned to any of the developers, and those developers are here tonight. We will take all due consideration on the timing of the gate as that goes on in to protect the individuals and the property owners on Crawford to the west of the project. The right to farm is still dear to our hearts, and we will continue the right to farm. We will be in discussions with the city of Modesto, the county, and Riverbank in areas that are not being improved by the development, what has to be improved for the traffic flow and the safety of all residents. The part that you were talking about between the project and Coffee Road on Morel will be a county issue, but we are willing as partners of the city of Riverbank to use some of our public facility fees that we would be generating to help improve the road as much as possible without stepping on the toes of the Big Brother County.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments on that from the staff?
Just that the other things that you mentioned, Mrs. Silva, the signage and and any associated sort of walls in between ag uses, or some components of which are in the plan. Others are just sort of common sense things that we'll incorporate in to make sure that's harmonious back and forth. And all very good comments. Thank you.
And we're going to make sure we preserve the farming and the farmers. We don't want any undue accidents out there. Okay, no further comments. I bring it to the council for consideration.
I make a motion that we approve item number 2019-015.
Can I make a recommendation to include the finding that the 1.25 acres?
The
that's included-
minimum acreage is not 1 to 3, it's 1.25 to 3. Is that what you're suggesting?
Correct, and the finding that a station site of 1.25 acres will be in compliance with general plan policies, public 7.1 through 7.5.
Okay.
He just said.
No,
And that's a
what Robin
minimum.
just said.
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion to approve item 3.13, resolution number 2019-05 with amendments, and a second.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who was the second. Thank you. Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Uribe,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We're going to item 3.1.4, first reading by title only and introduction of ordinance number 2019-003. Is there any questions or comments from the council concerning clarification of item 3.1.4? Seeing none, I go to the public for a public hearing. I open the public hearing on item 3.1.4. Seeing no public comment, I bring it back to the council for consideration. I close public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we approve 3.1.4.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve the first reading and introduction of ordinance number 2019-003 and a second.
Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Uribe,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.1.5, resolution number 2019-016. This is the application to LAFCO. Do I have any council member needing clarifications or question of our presenter? Seeing none, I go to the public. I open the public hearing on item 3.1.5. Do I have any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I bring it back to the council for consideration, and I close the public hearing for resolution number 2019-016.
I make a recommendation to approve item number 2019-016.
I second.
We have a motion to approve resolution number 2019-016 and a second.
Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Uribe,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Going on to item 3.2, Crossroads West Specific Plan, Mixed Use 1, Project Consideration of. Item 1, the first reading by title only and introduction of ordinance number 2019-004, approving a development agreement agreement by and between the City of Riverbank and Western Pacific Holdings, Inc. Item 3.22, resolution number 2019-017, approving a preliminary development plan by Western Pacific Holdings, Inc. for the Crossroads West Pacific Plan. And 3, resolution number 2019-018, approving a tentative parcel map by Western Pacific Holdings, Inc. for the Crossroads West Pacific Plan. And 4, resolution number 2019-019, approving a sales tax sharing agreement by and between the City of Riverbank and Western Pacific Holdings, Inc. for the MU1 project in the Crossroads West Specific Plan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So this part of the agenda this evening will specifically revolve around the Mixed Use 1 project, which is essentially the commercial component south of MID Lateral 6. The Deputy City Attorney, Robin Barral, will give the report this evening on the development agreement, to be followed by the Donna, who is going to give, and he'll also be doing a report on the sales tax sharing, so we'll probably do both of those items under your report. Oh, so yeah, so perhaps what we'll do instead is to give you sort of a graphic view of the project and what's being proposed is we'll start with the tentative parcel map and preliminary development plan, then we'll get to the business components of the development agreement. Donna?
Are we using this one or this one? Yes, this one. This one? Okay. Well, good evening, Council. You've been given an extremely large amount of information. Thank you so much to J.B. Anderson Land Use Planning. They did an excellent job. So now it's going to be my job to take all that, to kind of narrow you down now to the parcel map level. So early in John's presentation, we talked about the sphere of influence, and the project is located in this area right here. This is the specific plan area project area, again from the canal to Oakdale Road down to Clarabelle Road. Here's our land use diagram again. As you can see at the very bottom in the pink, that's the location that we're heading to. And this is the project area itself outlined in red. It's a proposed 58-acre commercial area that will complement the existing crossroads across the street. They propose 35 commercial parcels that would accommodate up to 550,000 square feet of commercial, or a mixed use of the 350 residential units and 360,000 square feet. The developer would like to retain some flexibility because we don't know what the market conditions will be for commercial structures as well as the housing itself. Here is our tentative parcel map. As you can see, it's the parcels are overlaid with the possible building sites and infrastructure as far as the parking areas. You'll see a number of very long, skinny parcels, and you may be wondering what that's all about. Well, this gives the developer even more flexibility as well as the potential tenants. A larger tenant could come in and say take lots 13, 14, 15, and 16, or if it's a smaller project, maybe they just take 15 or 16. At this point, when the decision is made, it will just take a lot line adjustment at the staff level in order to accommodate the proposed tenant. Off to the lower left-hand side over here, you can see an area that may end up being residential. This area here is a large commercial area with a bunch of commercial pads that face Oakdale Road and Clarabelle Road. This is one layer of their preliminary development plan. Again, we talked about the potential residential area over here, should that come forward in the process. Otherwise, it is believed that the commercial will start closest to Oakdale and Clarabelle, and then work its way off towards this direction. There will be easements through the property to accommodate utilities that city will have access to. You can see a number of the driveways to access the project off of Oakdale Road and Clarabelle. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. And this, again, is by our city clerk to kind of keep us on path of the direction we need to go.
We're using the same format. We'll give all the presentations, and if there are comments, questions, we'll do that after all presentations.
Perfect. And then I'd like to hand it over to our attorney, Robin Burrell, for the development agreement portion of this presentation. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and briefly summarize the development agreement, and obviously, if you have any specific questions, please feel free to chime in. The key provisions are highlighted in the staff report. The term of this agreement would be for 20 years, similar to the original Crossroads development agreement. And to sort of back up a little bit, when we started this process, we started with the development agreement for that project. It was a successful project. We went through and sort of updated the provisions to sort of catch them up to speed, up to 2019 standards, and that's how we got to where we are today. Because this project area is outside of city limits, the term for the development agreement will only become legally effective once annexation is approved and the developers acquire fee title. The key portion of the key need for a development agreement in this context is to facilitate phasing of a 20-year build-out with multiple commercial pads and a potentially residential component. The development agreement includes a detailed phasing plan, I believe in Appendix F. And so the city staff worked really closely with the MU1 developer to identify the right mix of facilities that will need to go in with each phase. And obviously, every phase will need to have services connected to it in order for it to develop. So there's some flexibility within that phasing plan as well to make sure that, obviously, each project will have to have roadways, water, sewer, and all the facilities to serve the project. Another key portion of a development agreement deals with the credit and reimbursement of the city's systems development fee program. And this is a mechanism whereby if the developer installs what are considered regional improvements, the city's SDF program has accumulated funds to finance those facilities. So, some of the key SDF improvements are Clarabelle Road, Oakdale Road, the related intersections, 12-inch water lines, those types of regionally benefiting improvements. So the development agreement provides a pretty standard process for the developer to install those facilities and get reimbursed through the SDF program. The development agreement includes pretty detailed conditions of approval to cover the entire build-out period. There's also a project-specific mitigation and monitoring plan, and this is tied to the EIR, the CEQA approvals. The city basically went through the mitigation measures and identified which ones apply to the project, which ones don't apply. For example, some of the subsequent studies regarding historical resources don't apply to this project area because you don't have any potential historical resources on the site. So we went through and sort of ticked off all the ones that don't need to be monitored for this project. What makes this development agreement a little bit unique is the sales tax sharing component. The request is to consider both of these items together, and the sales tax sharing agreement follows a similar format as the SDF reimbursement mechanism, but the difference here is that the allocation of sales taxes on the project site only would be utilized to reimburse the developer for public improvements that are constructed. The goal of the sales tax sharing agreement is to incentivize the developer to bring in the highest possible retail sales tax generating uses on the site. As has been mentioned earlier, a key function of this project is sort of the flexibility and to allow the developers to respond to market changes over a 20-year build-out. And that was a key point of discussion when we started this process, however many years ago, was to have that flexibility and to be able to respond to market changes. So the way under that scenario, with having that much flexibility, the sales tax sharing agreement is the single most important driver to ensure that the city gets tenants that will provide a revenue positive income stream, not for only the build out of the project, but thereafter for a long term basis. So we worked really closely with the MU1 developer to negotiate a fair deal. The provisions provide for a 50-50 split of sales tax revenues that are generated on-site only. So this agreement doesn't touch any existing sales taxes outside of the MU1 project area. And as sales tax generating uses are developed on site, the city would receive 50% of those taxes. So it would be until such time that the improvements are fully reimbursed, and then the city receives 100% of the sales taxes going forward. As far as subsequent approvals, once this development agreement is approved, the development agreement ties in with the specific plan to, basically the vested rights under the DA provide that certainty to the developer. There's a process in the specific plan where projects will be required to come back for site plan review, and there's a process laid out for the city to determine whether to approve those at an administrative level or if they get appealed to the planning commission level. So that's basically the only subsequent approvals that would be required if the development agreement and related sales tax sharing agreement and tentative map are approved.
Thank you.
Mayor,
We'll have time when we go back.
Mayor,
one at a time.
one little important addition, because I've been asked about this a few times. There are provisions in this development agreement that allow for the city for a 2-year period after approval to update its system development fee program. So we make sure that our fees are, especially with regard to traffic and sewer, are as fresh as humanly possible. And therefore having plenty of money to not only fund these other transportation projects elsewhere in the city, but also have adequate funds to reimburse ones that are local to the project.
Thank you. Okay, as we did in the previous, we'll take each item one at a time. Item 3.2.1, the first reading by title only and introduction of ordinance number 2019-004. Are there any questions or comments from the city council?
I just want to clarify, because I'm not sure. I started understanding, then you went off and I wasn't sure. So when they go to introduce the first building, do we have any say or nay about whether we want it? Say they want to put in a big liquor store and we don't want to have a liquor store. Do we have any say in that at any point?
I'd have to refer to Donna as to the specific permitted uses, but the specific plan has a very detailed sort of zoning component. And within that plan, there's uses that are deemed permitted. I believe a liquor store would be.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but
there were some that are included, like, for example, one of the points we discussed quite a bit with the developer was, what about a bar or like a nightclub use that's exclusively sort of alcohol sales? I believe that the specific plan has a component that kicks it into use permit territory. However, what the developer had said as we were discussing it was, well, what if there's a restaurant that has a bar component of it? We don't think that is something you typically want to take through planning commission. So the way I believe it's written, we have to pull it up real quick here, is that if there are more than 50% of the receipts of the business are alcohol sales, essentially bar sales, then you may be a bar and you'd have to go through a separate process. If it's less than that, it's a restaurant, like a La Paria is a great example.
So there is specifics. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any further comments on item 3.21? I open it for public comment on item 3.2.1.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Daryl Broman. We are the original developers of Crossroads West. It's a pleasure to be back before you tonight. Hopefully, through the efforts and what we've done on Crossroads 1 and the diligence and the patient approach that we take to development, it gives everybody a comfort level and, what our pursuits will be in further enhancing Crossroads, the Crossroads Shopping Center with Crossroads West. We're excited. We think that since that time, we've continued to learn, and I think that the project that'll be before you as we develop this project out will be even more exciting than what we were able to accomplish in Crossroads. I want to take a second and thank your staff and the city manager and city attorney. This was a very detailed and hard effort to get to this point. And I think one of the things that's so critical is what has given us the success in Crossroads West is to be in a position where we can tell tenants, or we were able to tell tenants, that this is what you needed to accomplish and get your stores built. The retail environment has gotten extremely more difficult since we originally started we actually got involved in 2001, but didn't actually get development moving until later, like 2004. But I think what we've been able to accomplish with the documents that are before you tonight put us in the best possible light of continuing with the success that we've achieved in Crossroads West. And we thank your staff and the city for this opportunity, because I think it gives us a great chance to bring forth something that we'll all be very proud of. And I'm available to answer any questions, but I just wanted to take a second. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back to the city council for consideration, and I close the public hearing.
Mayor, one last item I didn't get a chance to add in, but I think is important here. The components that are discussed with regard to reimbursements and Robin's sort of narrative about reimbursements and sales tax sharing were born of a wider, more strategic discussion with the developer with regard to what does the city need to do to be a partner to make this project absolutely the most competitive we can. And so we don't get a whole lot of time in these public hearings to really go into every nook and cranny of this, but that was the perspective that we took to try to cut this deal, essentially. So I just wanted to mention that.
That's item number 4. So, for the city council, for item 3.2.1, the first reading by ordinance only, ordinance number 2019-004.
I make a motion, we approve item number 2019-004.
I
second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second on ordinance number 2019-004.
Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Lossie,
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.22, resolution number 2019-014, the preliminary development plan. Is there any clarification needed by of the presenter? Seeing none, I open this item up for public comment. I open public hearing on item number 3.22. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the council for consideration.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept item 3.22017 as stated.
I second.
A motion to approve item 3.22, resolution number 2019-017, and a second.
Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Lossie,
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.23, resolution number 2019-018, approving a tentative parcel map by Western Pacific Holdings. Is there any clarification needed from the presenters? Seeing none, I open public hearing on item 3.23. Is there any public comment on item 3.23? Seeing none, I close public hearing and bring it back to the council for consideration.
Make a motion, we approve item 3.2.3.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve item 3.23 and a second.
Council members Campbell,
Yes.
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 3.24, resolution number 2019-019, and our city manager added additional comments to that. In my opinion, this is an investment that the city is making to our developers to ensure that they can provide us the highest quality development. So that is just my opinion before I throw it out to the rest of the council for any comments or clarifications by the presenter. Seeing none, I open public hearing on item 324. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council I close public hearing and bring it back to the council for consideration of resolution number 2019-019.
I make a motion we approve resolution number 2019-019.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on resolution number 2019-019.
Councilmembers Campbell.
Yes.
Fosse.
Yes.
Uribe.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Before we close, is there any comments from the staff?
Yes, Mayor. I wanted to just take a moment. We've talked about it a lot at council meetings over the last number of months. This has been a major effort for the Riverbank staff and management team. It's a very large project for a staff of our size, and we have depended not only on our internal folks but the consultant team that was here earlier, and my partner next to me here to really get through this. We made an internal decision about 6 months ago to put as many resources as we could towards closing this project and getting it moved on to the next step. And so were it not for the following people in various ways, some were very directly involved, others on the periphery, and many of their staff involved, we would not be here today. And those folks, just real quickly, are Donna Kenny, Kathleen Cleek, Michael Riddell, Maricela Garcia, Anna Nicholas, Chief Kiley, Sue Fitzpatrick, Annabelle Aguilar, Norma Torres, Cheryl Stefani, Robin Barral to my right, Bill Cole, who's in the audience, and Roman Acosta, who is no longer here. He left with John, but he wrote a lot of the reports you're reading this evening. And we really appreciated working on the project. We believe strongly that it's going to be something that Riverbank can be very proud of, and we're looking forward to the next step at LAFCO, and then hopefully see something build at some point soon. So thank you very much to the council for being so supportive of the project for many years.
Thank you. Any council comments?
I'd just like to echo everything Sean stated, and it was nice to see a quality project, so thank you for that.
I also am very excited to see where Crossroads West builds out, what it's going to be. I just would like to make sure that it's family friendly. Thank you.
Just like to add that the professionalism I saw in the documents, I know it was a lot of work, and I'm very proud of our staff for doing it, and I'll put you up against anybody in this county.
I want to say thank you to the Planning Commission for your role in all of this, because without you, we wouldn't be at this point either. So thank you very much for what you've done. And I also would like to invite everyone out to softball. It starts on Saturday, so I hope to see you there, 9:30. Thank you. Come out to the parks.
But, besides echoing what Sean said, there are a lot of misconceptions on some of the people that don't know Riverbank. We are family friendly, but more importantly, we are seeking affordable housing. What we need are investors to put their money up and start constructing it. What I stated in the state of the city is germane. We are seeking, and we're also looking for transitional housing for the homeless. So we're not passive, and I take offense to one of the suggestions that we are. With that, I want to thank everybody here, and I adjourn the meeting. The next city council meeting will be Tuesday, March 26th. I'll be in D.C.
Because I don't want them to